Minister, I've just come from UCD, where the first person I met was a lecturer saying how worried she is about their ability to retain and recruit PhD students because of the financial pressures they're under. I was at the Trinity USI student walkout the other day, where I met undergraduates furious that nothing effectively has been done for them in the budget. I met postgrads, and this week I met psychology students, some who are funded, some who aren't, all of whom saying it is near impossible for them to actually complete their studies because of the financial pressures they're under. What are you going to do for students?
I would accept that there's always a need to do more, and I fully accept that, but the idea that you'd suggest on behalf of anybody else that nothing was done in the budget to assist students just is manifestly untrue. 143 million euro of extra cost of living measures for students between now and the end of the year is not nothing. About 95,000 students will benefit from a €1,000 reduction in fees between now and Christmas. Over 50,000 students will benefit from a bonus student grant payment on the 16th of December. That will amount to about €679 extra for many, many students. Student grants will rise by between 10 and 14% from January, not having to wait to the next college year. That's ahead of the inflation rate. The Student Assistance Fund has seen an increase of an additional €8 million. We've just made sure that students and their parents are covered by the rent relief. Do I accept there's a need to do more? Of course I do. But it's certainly not nothing, or effectively nothing, I think was your phrase, that was done in the budget. That's just not true. I mean, we can have, as your question attempts to do, an informed discussion about the need to do more and what the system should look like. But we certainly have taken a lot of actions. I'm not sure you'll ever be able to point to a budget delivered in this House before that has delivered more in terms of reducing the cost of education in one single go in terms of cost of living measures, and I accept we've more to do. I do think there's a very valid issue that you reference in relation to PhD students, PhD researchers, and that's why I do intend to have a full review of how this country supports our PhD students, how it compares to other countries, what we must do better. I intend for that to be an external review and not a departmental exercise, but actually somebody who can liaise directly with PhD students, look at what this country does well, look at what this country must do better, and crucially look at the issue of financial support. So I do think there has been real measures taken. I know these are measures that will affect many, many, many tens of thousands of students and their parents between now and Christmas, not having to wait for some significant period into the future. But I do also know we've more to do.
Look, okay, let's put it this way. What you did was a drop in the ocean, and it is telling that we had some of the biggest student protests for a very long time after your budget, okay? And they were not happy. So I'm relaying what those students expressed to me. The PhD students, some of them get no stipends, some of them get miserable stipends of a few grand, and even the ones who get 18,000 are having to work all the hours that God sent. Therefore, they find it difficult to study or have to do a second job, which makes it almost impossible for them to complete their studies. And therefore, a lecturer who used to lecture me actually out in UCD said, I am, quote, I am very worried about our ability to recruit and retain postgrad students. Now that is a very serious thing when we have chronic skills shortages in a whole number of areas across our society and our public services, that we are making it extremely difficult for people to get degrees, to get postgrad degrees, to do doctorates and so on. That is the point. And now we're having increasing numbers of students saying we're just going to leave the country.
We also have record numbers of students in third level education, more than ever before in the history of the state. That does need to be acknowledged. We have more students than ever before in the history of the Leaving Cert getting their first choice in college. We have new universities, technological universities opening in the regions. We've pathways between further and higher education. We've abolished the PLC levy. We've increased financial supports for apprentices. We have increased the stipend. My record in relation to PhD students is one of increasing stipends every year I've been minister. When I first became minister, there was a very significant differential between the IRC and the SFI stipend. We equalised that. In this budget, we're increasing those stipends by a further €500, and then we're actually putting that €500 into the baseline. But I do think we've a lot more that we need to do in relation to PhD students. In relation to postgraduate students, we've also increased the number of students who will be able to access the €1,000 additional contribution towards their fees this year, and we've made a permanent increase to the threshold in 2023. So this is a budget that has moved significantly in relation to the cost of education education by any objective factor. But yes, we have more to do, and we'll build on this in the years ahead.
I still think you're missing the reason why they're protesting and why they're so angry. And you see, people who are on poverty stipends or no stipends or no funding for educational psychologists or a little bit of funding for clinical psychologists, those groups are on such low incomes that they have been doubly hammered in real terms with the cost of living and the housing crisis, right? So it is now becoming unbearable for them. And what they got in the budget was a drop in the ocean. It doesn't even compensate for how much worse things have got for them over the last year and a half, particularly on the low incomes that they're in. Now, what I'm saying to you is, we've got to get rid of the fees. Full stop for postgrads, for graduates. It makes no sense to put financial barriers in the way of people reaching their maximum potential in education. Why are we still putting barriers? Why are we making it difficult? Why are we putting them in a situation that many of them drop out or decide to leave the country?
So we're removing barriers, Deputy. Objectively, we're removing barriers. I'm the First Minister with responsibility for higher education who's been able to stand here in 27 years and talk about fees coming down in this country. I mean, that's what the budget did. Now, we can have a legitimate debate about the pace of reduction and whether we can move faster and whether we can, all of that's legitimate. But let's not escape the context here, which is actually we've just delivered a budget which has reduced college fees, and not on a once-off basis, by the way, has permanently reduced college fees for anyone earning less than €100,000 into their households, has done double that this year in recognition of the cost of living crisis. And when you say doesn't even compensate, all of the increases that we've done or all of the reductions that we've done are ahead of inflation, are ahead of the increased prices that students are facing. And when you look at the budget in the round, further additional supports, for example, the 50% reduction on public transport fees for students and for young people. These are real tangible measures, but we have more to do. I engage with students very regularly in relation to this issue, very intensively, and I listen to them and I hear them. There are real cost of education challenges in this country. This budget takes a massive step forward, and we've